Hello and welcome to the Controller Chronicles HD. In this installment, I'm talking about the Neo-Geo Pad 2, a controller released exclusively in Japan for the PlayStation 2. The Neo-Geo Pad 2 was released in 2004 to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Neo-Geo series, The King of Fighters. The Neo-Geo Pad 2 is a PlayStation 2 controller that is styled after the Neo-Geo CD and Neo-Geo CD-Z controllers. This is a fantastic controller that works with every PlayStation up into the PlayStation 2. This will work with the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 1, and the PS2. This uses basically a micro switch joystick hybrid into a controller design that gives you this click stick design. So here's the box itself. As you can tell, it's seen better days. It's pretty worn now, but it's just a cardboard box, so that explains that. The thing is quite a fantastic controller, and let me show you the controller itself. Let me pull that out. Right here. So this is the Neo-Geo Pad 2. The Neo-Geo Pad 2 main attraction is this thing right here, as mentioned before. This is actually a click stick, similar to the Neo-Geo Pocket Color. This is not a D-pad and it's not an arcade stick. It's somewhat halfway in between both of those things, and it sort of takes the best from both worlds. This makes it ideally suited for playing fighting games, as well as other genres such as platformers, shoot 'em up, side-scrolling or vertical, games like RPGs, or basically anything else that doesn't require a really precise analog controller or doesn't require the second stick. So basically, anything that you can think of for the PS2 that doesn't make those requirements, you can play with this. It's not great for fight sims or first-person shooters or that sort of thing, but it is great for just about everything else. Now, as mentioned, this is a PlayStation 2 controller and not a Neo-Geo pad for the Neo-Geo CD and controller Neo-Geo Z controllers. Instead, this is a fully functional PS2 controller, and it has all of the PS2 face buttons. It has, the 4 face buttons as normal, the 2 shoulder buttons, and then these 2 shoulder buttons up top. These are the L2 and R2 buttons, as well as start and select in the middle. So, as opposed to the original controller, which had just the 4 face buttons and a start button, this one adds the additional buttons to make it a fully fledged PlayStation controller. Therefore, this controller can be used for just about every PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 game that meets the requirements of where you could use a D-pad or use it in a setting where a D-pad would be well suited for a game, such as, again, fighting games, platformers, shooters, RPGs, you name it. So let me go over the actual features of this controller. The controller itself is designed so it's very ergonomically shaped, so it's very easy to hold and very light to hold, actually. This controller doesn't weigh a whole lot, but that's not to say that the controller is cheap or poorly constructed, because quite the opposite. This is a very solidly built controller that is really quite fantastic. The click stick on it, even though the controller is, getting on in age now, you can actually still hear the clicks, and it's quite nice. Being able to control your movements is quite fantastic with this thing. It has actually a little dip here. You can see that little dot. That is actually a little spot, so you can rest, put your finger on that, or put your thumb on that, so you can tell where your thumb is in relation to its movements around the joystick. The 4 face buttons don't feel quite as nice as the official OEM PlayStation controllers, but they're not bad. These are not bad buttons by any stretch of the imagination. They just don't feel quite the same as the first-party controllers. The 2 shoulder buttons, likewise, are probably the worst buttons of all. The face buttons are kind of nice, but these ones you have to really sort of press really hard to press down. I kind of wish that they were, more similar to these buttons here, but, you don't have to be using the L2 and R2 buttons too often, because, most fighting games are 6-button layout or only 4-button layout at that. So these kind of buttons are not very used except for, in extreme cases. Start and select are sort of out of the way from the face button, so you don't really have to worry about accidentally pressing the start button or select button. You have to actually deliberately move your finger, off of that, or just take your thumb and just use your index finger to press those buttons down. The controller cord is, not extremely long, but it is, I'd say it's about 5 feet long. And overall, it makes for a really great controller. So let's plug this in and let's demo some gameplay. So I have here, let's see, where is it? Perfect game to showcase it is here is Neo-Geo Battle Coliseum for the PlayStation 2. This is, of course, a Neo-Geo style fighting game. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera and we're going to go to the TV. Alright, unmute that. Now I'm going to take the controller and start to play with it. So I can move around, quite seamlessly. This works just perfectly, actually. Movement feels just perfect, and you can, do all the sort of things that you do on with an arcade stick, just in a controller. Now again, I just aim the controller down a little bit. You can see I'm moving around. Now, the one thing that's unfortunate about this controller is the fact that it's somewhat rare, as it is a Japanese-only item. So import shops can really be free to charge whatever they want for this thing. Domestically in Japan, it usually sells for about 3,000 to 4,000 yen. But internationally, I've seen this thing go for $100. It's pretty crazy, the price differences for international demand for this controller. Now again, it is a great option if you're playing fighting games, but it's great for other genres as well. And another thing that should be mentioned, another reason why this controller is quite fantastic, is because the PlayStation 2 controller is such a well-accepted and well-entrenched controller standard that there's basically PS2 adapters for every other system ever made. You can find adapters, just at the top of that I can think of the Wii, Xbox 360, the original Xbox, PC of course. You could play Super Nintendo. There's PlayStation 2 and Super Nintendo adapters, Dreamcast. You name it. You can use a PS2 controller on the PS3. This thing will work on just about anything. So if you've ever needed a really precise sort of D-pad analog stick arcade stick hybrid, which is again what the Neo-Geo CD controller originally was, and the Neo-Geo Pocket controller has what I generally consider to be a click stick. This is one of the best controllers that you could possibly buy. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this video, so thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, let me know, and once again, I'll see you next time. So again, this is the Neo-Geo Pad 2 for the PS2. Awesome.